All right, 7:01, so I'd like to call this meeting to order. If we could rise for the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Roll call on this action, son.
Here.
Mr. Bray. Here. Mrs. Bremer.
Here.
Mr. Conley. Here. Mr. Hall. Here. Mr. Hopkins.
Mr. Hopkins indicated he'd be 5 minutes late.
Okay. So we'll just want to excuse for this first part. Mr. Laws. Good. Mr. Owens is here. I'd like to welcome Tim Johnson, our new city planner. After tonight's meeting, we'll have the initial hazing for the first time.
I have to leave early tonight.
Oh, sorry about that. Mr. Womack, Ms. Newland are here as well. Thank you. All right, let's turn our attention to, if you can remember back to April 11th, since we didn't have our May meeting, take a look at those minutes from that meeting. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question on the master plan. Enhance motors on White Plain Trail. I don't know.
These are your minutes.
I don't recall off the top of my head. I could go back and look at it. I believe it was talking about snowmobiles near the White Pine Trail, if I recall correctly.
The master plan, but I don't.
I guess we'd have to go back and look at what the video says.
Do you have any idea when we're going to get the new master plan?
Yes, I've been in discussion with Carmen Antini, the former city planner, indicated to me that he was working on it this week. I did send him over a couple of the pictures that the planning commission discussed about adding. We had a couple emails back and forth about what exactly was meant by the minutes that I sent him. So he is working on it.
My suggestion would be to hold off on approving the minutes if you'd like, and I can bring further clarification next time. If you don't want to approve that.
She brought it up, we'll defer to you. Would you like to make a motion on it, or?
I guess we'll make a motion that we table until next month.
A motion to table the approval of those minutes until we can get some clarification. Is there support for that? Any discussion? All right, all in favor, aye? Aye. All opposed, no. Thank you, we will table that. All right, just want to make sure that everybody got the latest agenda before we approve that, because I know we had a couple of things that were being added, so on your screen in front of you, you should have the latest one there. You'll see that there's a letter T for George under new business. That's how you kind of know you've gotten to the latest and greatest one. So with that in mind, is there a motion to approve that agenda? A motion and support. Any questions on the agenda? All in favor of approval, aye? Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Public comments. Any of our citizens that would like to address us, now is your golden moment. Step up to the mic. Speaking of mics, are our mics on? Yes. All right, seeing none, we will move on. Item 7 on our agenda, we had addressed this briefly last month, like I said, just as I should say 2 months ago, because we know when people last, we decided to add this item to our agenda. This was in looking ahead at any of the business that is before us for any of the commissioners to self-report on if they thought that there was a conflict of interest that they might have with business coming up before us, or any ex parte communication. Simply means that any of the applicants that are involved with this item's business were having communication with you, you're having a discussion with them somewhere outside of our meeting, that you would just, again, make us aware of that, and that way the rest of the council or the commission can decide if there might be a conflict of interest that we need to address. So that's what that means. So anybody have anything to report as far as the business before us? All right. Now we'll move on. We have no public hearings this evening, so we'll move to our new business. Looking at 14141 White Creek parking lot plan application. Mr. Johnson, if you would walk us through your letter dated June 6th.
You have my report dated June 6th. Let me go over that briefly. This is simply a site plan review request to construct 9 parking spaces on a vacant parcel at 14141 White Creek Avenue, property zone B3, Highway Business District. The request has been submitted by Mr. Darren Herwire. He is represented tonight by Mark Tomasek, an architect here. Take your questions following my report. The proposed parking lot is considered to be a principal use in the B3 zoning district. And while it's a very small project with only 9 parking spaces, probably the biggest hurdle is the fact that because it's on a vacant parcel, our zoning ordinance does not permit in the B3 zoning district a parking lot to be the principal use. There has to be some use that it serves on the same parcel. So under site plan comments, the first thing I pointed out was that the Planning Commission cannot approve this evening unless one of several options happens. First is that the parking lot would have to be made part of the same parcel as the White Creek Plaza, is the first option. They can wait and build a building on the vacant parcel, in which case that parking lot would serve that building, or they can go before the zoning board of appeals and seek a use variance. So one of those 3 options must be satisfied for you to be able to approve this, and you may be able to make that a condition of approval following our review of the site plan. Any questions on that at this point? No? Okay.
Excuse me, what was the first thing that they have to do?
Well, the first option, in order to be approved, was the parking lot would have to be combined with the parcel containing the White Creek Plaza, which is where they're getting their access from. There's a shared parking drive there, and I think I gave you a picture, and the site plan shows that access will be from White Creek Avenue, and it's right next to the property line. We need to hear from the applicant as to who's going to use that parking lot, but per our ordinance, we're not allowed to approve that. But we can go ahead and look at the site plan, and then you can make a decision to approve this, subject to the site plan being corrected, and also subject to meeting one of these 2 options noted in my report. So let me just proceed through that. On the first page, item number 2, we're waiting to hear some kind of written narrative or something for the record as to who would be the user of those parking spaces. Looking on page 2, I've given you a number of items that are required by our site plan review chapter. Most of these are somewhat routine: scale, north arrow, label the adjoining uses. Probably the biggest one that they need to take care with would be the setback from the side property line. The parking lot has to be set back 10 feet. So if the property is combined with the White Creek Plaza property, then they'll have to move that property line at least far enough away from the proposed parking lot so it's 10 feet away. on page 16. Other items that need to be shown in the site plan, I believe the applicant can easily comply with those requirements. Item 5 in my report, I'd like your opinion on whether some landscaping should be provided along White Creek Avenue, because they are adding some additional parking. It's not facing White Creek Avenue, but your ordinance allows you to require some parking along that roadway if you so require that. Looking at the safety aspects, the cars will be backing out into the access lane as vehicles come in to use the Big drive-through window. When the cars back out, they're still about 90 feet from the driving lane of White Creek Avenue, which allows for enough sight distance for the driver to see somebody backing out. It really isn't much different than if you're in a parking lot going through. There's actually more sight distance if you come in off White Creek Avenue to see a car backing out of those angled parking spaces. Also, for northbound drivers coming out of the parking lot and turning left into the Bigby drive-through lane, it's a direct sight line to see cars backing out of there. So I think overall it's not really a safety issue for cars backing in and out of there for cars coming in. I think there's sufficient sight distance, stopping distance for drivers approaching those cars to make the appropriate maneuver and stopping time. So I don't think we have a safety issue here. The driveway serving Bigby meets ordinance requirements for width. In fact, I think it exceeds it. I noticed from the Google map that I provided you, there are cars parked in the connecting access lane to the vacant parcel where this parking lot is. Parking should not be allowed there, so that is an ordinance violation currently. You may wish to make that as a condition of approval that they cannot park there. Our city engineer has provided you with his report regarding stormwater detention. And looking at the site plan review standards in your zoning ordinance, it's my opinion that this project would meet those standards. Having said all that, our summary, we would like the applicant as a condition of approval to revise the site plan and then either provide a new revised version back to myself or the zoning administrator, or you could have the site plan brought back to the planning commission for one last look before you approve it. I'd like your opinion on whether landscaping is required along White Creek Avenue. And then, as I mentioned, parking in the access lane should be prohibited as a condition of approval. And then the last two items of approval would be the applicant would have to comply with one of the three conditions listed on page 1 of my report. And then no construction would take place until the final site plan has been revised, all conditions met, and the final site plan signed by the Secretary of the Planning Commission per your ordinance. So with that, I would ask if there are any questions or comments from the Planning Commission.
Look at that picture. It appears that the 3 parking spaces are already on that next lot.
Yes, they are. I believe that would be correct, because the property line goes down the center of the driveway. They still shouldn't be parked there because that again is considered a, they have cross access, but it's also a parking lot on a vacant parcel.
So the parking places they want to put in would just be extended from there out, right?
They would be at an angle in the grass area beyond those 3 vehicles you see parked in the picture.
I know that we had a lot of discussion about this sort of thing when we approved the Big D drive-through. And I think that he was trying to alleviate the problem of deliveries and when the Jack's Pizza guys picking up the pizzas and leaving.
Right.
So,
Right.
so if they did, I think it's number 1 on your list, to make that a part of the plaza, then it wouldn't be a violation.
That's correct. Yeah. Then they could legally ask for permission to put it on the same property. Any other questions?
If I'm understanding, they purchased 2 some acres, is that what it is? Or or in the process of purchasing additional property that was owned by somebody else?
Well, it's a separate parcel, and I believe the person that owns White Creek Plaza parcel
Yes.
also owns the vacant parcel where they want to put these 9 parking spaces on. So it's the same property owner, but there's still a property line there, so they're legally 2 separate parcels.
And simply, how far into the second parcel are those parking spaces? Any idea?
Well, I measured from about 90 feet from the driving lane of White Creek Avenue, so probably maybe 60 feet from the property line.
Going north.
Oh, going north.
It looks like 38 feet.
Yeah. 38, probably 40.
The rest of the parcel, I guess, is where I was
I see.
concerned.
Well, I would leave those questions to the applicant's representative here this evening.
This issue here is the same that we had with CS Manufacturing one that put a parking lot next to their business on a separate parcel in Region 9. And could it possibly happen if the owner of the new parcel, 030, if he would deed over approximately 40 feet or 50 feet on the south line of that parcel and incorporate it into that other parcel, would that suffice?
Yeah, probably. I'd like to see the revised, where the lot line is going to be and make sure it fits. But yeah, that's one of the solutions is to take that land from parcel 030 and add it to the White Creek Plaza parcel.
031.
031, yes.
Thank you.
The same person owns both.
But 2 separate parcels, he could take and give himself 40 feet of that north parcel and incorporate it into the south parcel, and he could build his parking strip.
What would they need then to do that? They would have to make a deed change?
Would you have questions for the applicant? And then I would defer to him if you have some way of questions.
Do you want to do that now, or do you want to?
Either one, whoever feels like the best answer.
Okay.
I'm Mark Thomas from Innovative Design. I have my water with me here. I got hay fever. It's just it's crazy in my head. This is how this all came about. The owner of the building went to his contractor and asked him to put the. Are you hearing okay?
Yeah.
Okay. To add this parking lot, the contractor looked into the codes and said if you had less than 9 parking spots, you can do it without coming before the board. And everyone was in transition at the time. Everything was going on without a planner. They put together this plan and then came to me to represent them, and I will finish up the plan. The plan that they have, not everything is drawn exactly right. What our plans are to do is to move that property line and put the parking in there. The plans that you have the same plan that I have. It shows the contours, and I drove by the site today, and the amount of fill that it's showing right now, it's pretty flat back there. We may have to bring a little bit of fill, nothing compared to what the plan that was done by Bigby originally. Between that time that plan was done and where the site is today, there's a lot more, there's fill back there, and there's a lot less fill that needs to be done to create these 9 parking spots. The 9 parking spots are more than likely for the Jets Pizzas. You can see they're parking back there already, and they're picking up the pizzas behind and going. And so our intentions are to add those 9, his intentions are to add the 9 parking spots and move the property line. I saw you had a camera right there, but I have a picture, just an idea of what he's looking to do. At the same time, he'd like to add more than 9 parking spots. He chose 9 because he was thinking he'd avoid the site plan hearing and go out and put the parking lot without doing anything. The engineer has reviewed the stormwater pond that we have in the back, and it has a lot more volume in there to handle the parking It's, I think we're, the additional volume they have is 0.7 acres, 0.78 acres, and we're only adding 0.05 acres to it. So we could triple the size of that parking, and the stormwater holding pond would hold, is large enough, built large enough to do that. He has not really made up his mind. It hasn't given me a final decision, but he wants the option to possibly put more than 9 parking spots. I have a drawing here showing the parking layout where the additional 11 spaces could be, and the existing property line and the new property line, and the amount that we have to move that property line is actually about 36 feet to give us a 10-foot setback from the parking lot. A number of things, as Tim has mentioned, would have to be completed on here as far as showing the dimensions of the parking lot, bumpers for the cars, and so they don't go off the ends. It's not going to be a curved. Landscaping would be nice, and that parking currently right now is a cross-access for a development in the back of on the next site. The owner of this property, he owns a number of different restaurants, franchise all over the United States. Jets Pizza being one of them, Tropical Smoothies being another. And he's a developer, and I'm sure he's planning on building a building back there when the time comes. And I think I answered most of the questions. Do you guys have any questions?
How far between where the drive-through is and where they're gonna have the parking? Is it gonna be straight from this? It's gonna probably be in front of the cross access, isn't it? You can't, I mean.
No. This is right as you come off.
I'm looking at it right now. I'm looking at the picture of the building and the parking.
Yes.
That's what we're looking at.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
looking at the,
Yeah, where those 3 cars are,
okay.
that really is supposed to be a driveway
Right.
to access the next property.
So I'm just wondering, because when we did Bigby, we actually wanted that drive a little wider when we did them.
It's,
So why I'm asking is, I want to know, is that parking lot going to come into that driveway that we already wanted wider, or is
oh
it
no,
going to be further
no,
over?
it's further to the west.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's going to
why
be
I'm
kept.
asking that question.
That cross access, you can see how a line, well, it really doesn't the curve. It narrows down because the curve, the sidewalk around the building, it makes it narrower. But to keep that lane the same width, that's a critical thing. At this point right now, you can see the way they have it striped, and where the shadow line is, I'm not sure if you're seeing similar to what I'm seeing. That's
Between the 2 dashes, you've got 2 dash lines. How wide is that?
Mark,
That? Okay.
you could bring it over there.
okay.
You can show us.
You know, this is,
You're 15
I messed with it a little bit
This is
today.
what I'm looking at right here.
Yeah, this is, we're gonna have 24-foot of driveway coming through here yet. And then the parking, first parking starts here. I really think what we should do is turn this part here rather than paving it, just have it landscaped here so it comes around and separates from this driveway. And it actually would be less money for
This is
them.
a cross access.
Yeah,
right here.
so
Okay.
this will have access to another building over here or whatever it might be, having this access to the highway visual. Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity. And it leaves us with this, here's the existing property line coming across. And this will leave us with another 164 foot, I think is the width of that site.
What's this?
These are contour lines that are not correct. You know,
Okay, all right.
I've been doing this for 30 years, and I can quickly see that these are off. This is real flat, you can park on it, but if these contours are like that, that drops off really fast. You know?
Well, I kind of looked at it when I drove through the other day, and there was some drop.
Oh, maybe further over here.
Yeah,
In this
yeah.
area, that's
There was
where
some
the
drop
pond
over
is.
there somewhere, but I can't
Not
remember.
here.
Yeah,
It's
no,
just
not
flat
that's
as a
not right.
pancake.
But I think everybody else probably wants to see it too.
You wanna?
Thank you for answering.
So he's actually asking for more parking spaces than what we got.
He was, I'm working for a contractor, and this guy, he's a restaurant specialist, and so he's a very busy person to come up with an answer. So, I've done quite a few of them. I mean, every Tennessee, he's set everywhere, a lot of different states. But so he's not a person to have over. He originally only wanted 9 spaces, but he thinks that it would be more helpful
and it's the property split and everything will
I
give
see
you
right
that.
here, so, oh, you did?
Yeah.
And I see that on this here, it shows you have a 5-foot easement already on the property line onto this. And then, of course, here you have the easement here, and then you have a 63-foot right of way through here, an access easement. And you already have this retention pond already listed and registered with the county.
Right. I think what needs to be done before I even start on this is I have to get a surveyor out there to get the correct contours.
Well, I would think you would resubmit this property description, including this parcel, and then we go from there.
I agree.
Save a lot of.
How much property of this 2.6 would have to be deeded over for the lot?
Well, I don't know exactly how many square feet are.
About 36 feet, that's like on the
About
print.
36 feet. And I thought just to get from the east property line to the west property line straight across. And that,
6 feet wide.
the stormwater pond is a shared pond between the two sites. And actually, I noticed that there is a culvert coming underneath the highway that goes into there. And it appears to be a little creek headed off to the east from that pond. So it was,
270 feet long by approximately 40 feet.
right. I guess what would be helpful for my clients so we can solve the problems with the parking that they have currently, which from hearing earlier, it's legally they're not parked. It's legally they can't park back there, and they're using that right now. If we were to get this parking and put together this plan, have a survey put together, show all the easements that are on the site, and those 2 easements that you recognize, that all I saw was dotted lines on the paper, what was provided to me. I would like to find out what those easements are for. It looked like it flanked the property line 5 feet on either side. Is it a utility easement? And if it is, who is that utility easement for? Normally, if it is a utility easement, paving over top, that's not a problem. But if the utility companies have to access it, the owner has to pay for replacing the paving.
Yeah, on that utility easement, that 63 feet, the water and sewer are laying in that.
Right.
And then
Okay.
the little 10-foot, it says on here that it's an egress. It runs east and west along the property line. There's 5 on that new lot that he just purchased, and approximately 5 on the existing lot.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see who owns those easements. Are the 2 properties that join each other own the easements? If they do, then we can make those easements disappear.
Yeah, and I think the new property description may fix all this.
Right. What I would hope to come from this meeting is have Tim satisfy all the requirements necessary that Tim has suggested. The first being moving the property line. Of the 3 options, moving the property line makes the most sense. And then provide all the necessary construction documents with a new survey describing the construction of the parking lot, and put the details into this drawing that are necessary for it to construct it correctly. And if I could get approval to do such a thing, I think we can make everything happen a little bit quicker, and my client can become conforming with township laws.
You understand, we can't approve it as it stands because we can't even approve the parking, but I would refer to Mr. Johnson here. If he's happy with everything, then I'm sure I would be, but I can't speak for the rest of the planners.
Okay.
Well, we really don't know exactly what he wants. If he wants 20 parking
Well,
spaces or 9.
I guess what I'm asking is allowing for us to have them to put parking along the back of the entire paved area there. Now, if you choose to put 9, we'll put 9. And if he wants to have I think it's 18 total, put the 18 parking spots along the back to better serve the shopping center there.
Okay, and then you want to know whether we are going to require. Thank you. Yes,
I
those are things that we'd like to know.
Yeah, and we can provide the landscaping.
Yes, sir.
So the furthest you would go back would be the 2 additional 60-foot increments. You wouldn't go any further past that.
Right to the corner of the other parking lot. Right to the corner, we'll square off that parking lot.
Thank you.
How would you suggest we proceed at this point? Case coming on
Well, I would say that I would like to see a revised site plan. It's, we would need a motion from the planning commission to approve it, subject to a revised plan being submitted to the planner and zoning administrator for compliance with ordinance requirements to show additional landscaping along the Lake Creek frontage and subject to the lot split being used in here. That's one option, and that we basically saying it's okay with us if it's okay with the staff. The other option is to have the applicant revise the plan, bring it back to you at the next meeting. We would also review it and give you our recommendation at that point. So it depends on what you're comfortable with. It's a very small project. You know what it's going to look like basically. So it depends on what you're comfortable with.
If I may, I'd kind of like to know what the maximum number of parking spots is thought would be comfortable with us approving administratively if you're going to do that. I understand why the original request was for 9, but I'm now hearing 20, 30, however many. And I don't want to be approving 250 parking spots if the body's not comfortable with that.
I guess my hesitation with like approving a site plan that we're not really seeing yet is that, you know, some of this was stuff that we tried to address when we were approving the site plan for Higby that we asked for and didn't get it, and then, you know, we were told that it was going to be one way and nobody was going to be parking back there, and now people are parking back there, and it took a long time to get the one way. So I don't feel, I mean, again, I can't, obviously, I'm not speaking for all of you, but personally, I don't feel comfortable just saying, sure, let's approve something that we're not really seeing. I would like to see a revised site plan completed with all of these steps. This is just, seems to me like an awful lot of steps that we're still waiting for, and have to go back to Mr. Johnson for approval and come back to us again.
I agree. I'd like to see that, see the deed that has gone through and then that's probably been transferred over as part of the plaza now. And then how many parking spots you really want with landscaping, lighting, because I would assume they might have to be old lighting on the back of the building for some parking spots there. So anything that's going to be changing, we should see in the go through.
I just did the quick numbers, and the maximum you can get out of there is 19, possibly 20 parking spaces. But I agree with the rest of the commission.
Yes.
I want to make sure that they're not gonna go into that yard. I want to see, you know, that's one of the things that we had, like Craig was saying, we really wanted more space, we wanted, you know, and we didn't.
You know, I totally understand where you all stand.
So we just
And
really
it
want to
makes
see that.
sense. And, you know, it's going to take me a month to get everything put together anyways, so might as well run it past you when that time comes. It's going to take 2 weeks to get a surveyor, and then another 2 weeks for me to put my part of the job together.